Okay, this exercise is for you to help your team understand the basic principles of the vision frame. Now when I lead into this exercise that we call Mouse-Free Inc., it's very important to clarify that we want to appeal to the common sense with these basic 5 questions of the vision frame. And because we're going to use a little corporate illustration and have some fun, I always remind people that we're not doing corporate thinking and sprinkling a little Jesus on top. So I kind of do that little disclaimer before we go into this exercise. So this exercise is meant to be extremely fast, fun, create some laughs, but the big thing is really just kind of burn this frame into the common sense of the mind. In fact, I did this toward the end of a vision pathway process recently, and the executive pastor and the pastor came to me at separate times. They're almost a little mad. They're like, "Will, I can't believe you didn't do this exercise with us on day 1. This was so amazing." So I've been experimenting with this exercise for the last year, and I'm moving it further up in the process now. So here's how it works. I suppose that the group that we're in is an entrepreneurial team, and we're all going to start a business together called Mouse-Free Inc. So here's what we're going to do. I'm going to give you the frame starting with the mission, and then we're going to quickly together brainstorm values, strategy, and measures, and think about the vision inside the frame. Here's how it works. So we put up the frame, and what I do just to keep things really, really fast and easy here is I say, look, I'm giving you the mission. So our mission is to help Americans experience mouse-free living, right? So we're going to help Americans experience mouse-free living. As soon as I share that, I remind everyone we're trying to make money with this deal, but we want to help society. So we're doing something more than just making money, and I ask what values might drive this mission that we're on. And of course I ask people to popcorn. Again, we keep it very fast, very fun, and immediately things start coming up like, well, we want disease-free, we value health, and so we come over here and we'll just write real quick, we value health, we value disease-free living. And then someone will laugh and mention maybe a moment where they were scared, or the freak out kind of thing that a mouse can do for someone at home. Or we talk about peace of mind or scare-free living. So we write down here, we value peace of mind. Write out some other fun things down there. And then when you ask them to keep pushing, there's usually 1 or 2 kind of fun things in there. People talk about maybe property damage. So we value our property. We value stewardship. And there'll be a fun things that kind of float in there. I'll just put up here, we value property. We get animal control. We get all kinds of things. And every once in a while, you got a little expert out there in the team on something to do with roads. So we get the values up here that drive us. Now I quickly say, okay, guys, there's 100 different ways that we might help Americans experience mouse-free living. And I suggest, what are some ways that we might go about doing this? And so immediately someone might say, well, what about education and prevention, right? You're like, great, let's get that down. Someone else will say, well, let's train cats better. And they're kind of being funny, and it's a great one. So we put it down there, Green Beret Cat Squad. Someone puts down there poison. Someone puts down a better mousetrap, and we immediately start listing all these things. So you've got the mousetrap, you've got poison. You've got education, and I go ahead and list usually 5 or 6 things on there to kind of get things going. And then I ask very simply, how might we measure the success of our mission, right? And so I ask them to kind of get creative and brainstorm, and immediately have a few simple things. Well, what about stories? Do we have, clear stories of decreased mouse sightings? So we'll write that up there, decreased mouse sightings. We might put in there, number of mouses killed, right? So we've got a body count metric up there. So we get those up there. Decrease mouse sightings. We've got increase in body count. And I start, someone will usually throw a metric in there like, money or a number of mousetraps sold. And I'll pause there and I'll clarify that there's a difference between input metrics and output metrics, right? And so I'll validate kind of that as a possible metric, but I'll remind them that just because we sold a lot of mousetraps does not mean we accomplished our mission. It's a very helpful distinction to make there. and I call that difference between input and output. So that I'll usually put that up there. That's you know, number sold, for example. But then I'll push them, and as soon as we name an input variable, I'll say, well, what about some output things? And someone might say, well, what about a decrease in disease? And so now we're getting, you know, pretty big kind of, you know, output metrics possibly on this frame. And you can have a lot of fun brainstorming. Gosh, we had a team talk about, you know, decreased mouse droppings, and I use that, you know, kind of weigh the mouse droppings. I use that to explain. That's a perfect illustration of spiritual things. You don't really see tangibly spiritual growth, but you see evidences of it. And so you get creative up here on the top of the frame. Now what I do at this point is I remind people, look, in less than 10 minutes, you could immediately separate the different functions of these questions that we're asking. This is what we're doing. This is why we would do that. These are some hows we would do that. These would be some ways to measure when we're successful. And immediately the vision frame comes to life a little bit more for the group. Now remember, you can at this time also talk about where is God taking us. And I explain, you know, we could think about it in terms of taking some area of the country by storm. Let's say we want to blitz New England with our mission, or let's say we want to get into every, you know, Home Depot and Lowe's in the state of Texas, or we might begin you know, envisioning a totally new day where, you know, we've decreased mouse-related diseases by 50%. There's a lot of different possible hills we could take as we look through this frame of Mouse-Free Inc. So use this tool with your teams and have some fun with it. Let the light bulbs come on with regard to the vision frame.